Barrett Sallee. I hope you're doing well, Barrett. Welcome into the game in Tuscaloosa.
I'm doing great, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
It's a big topic of conversation that we're talking about today. For one, we're counting down the minutes until Nick Saban stands at that podium coming up in about 22 minutes. I mean, Lord knows. He may be there all night with all the questions that it's going to be thrown at his way. But we're talking about style of play between Oklahoma and Alabama game, 12 days out. What kind of game are you expecting, Barrett?
Well, I'm expecting Alabama to score basically at will. And then on the flip side, it's a matter of, what Alabama does to combat Kyler Murray. I do think it's more of a challenge maybe than people in Tuscaloosa or maybe just in the SEC realize because, Kyler's got a really good offensive line. I mean, a really good offensive line. And if you remember last time Alabama was out there, their offensive line didn't necessarily play as well as it has in previous games. So it's not going to be easy for Alabama's defense. But I think the biggest thing for Alabama is they're going to have to just force a couple of empty possessions, a couple of punts, 2 or 3 field goal attempts rather than touchdowns. If that happens, it's over. If that doesn't happen, that's a problem. So I do think Oklahoma will have some success offensively. I don't think they'll have enough, but it'll be a little stressful for Nick Saban, I'm sure. I think that's the kind of game I expect. I expect Alabama to basically say, all right, go up there, score 40, score 50 points, and it'll be up to Oklahoma to answer. And I don't think they have what it takes to answer in a way that will keep them in the game for a full 4 quarters.
So, Barrett, let me give you an example. We're doing an unofficial score prediction day. And not that we're taking these, doesn't mean anything. We're just kind of getting a feel for this game 12 days out. Like, we've got 59-24, 65-34, 52-14. And I'm over here scratching my head saying that, I'm more like 42-28, 42-35, 48-35. What are you seeing as far as score-wise? I mean, because Vegas has got it in the 80s, total over and under.
Yeah, an 80. I would probably lean more toward the under. Not because I don't think Alabama can score at will. I just don't think Oklahoma will have enough to help that number get to that point. I would say if I had to say something right now, 42-27, maybe something like that. I mean, I'm kind of in the same neighborhood as you. I do think Alabama will score at will. But at some point, we'll basically decide to just deflate the football and keep Kyler Murray on the sideline, which is incidentally probably the best way to stop him anyway. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if Alabama flat out chooses to, I wouldn't say protect Tua, but kind of protect Tua and just hand off the entire game just to keep Kyler on the sideline. And even if they do that, they'll still probably score 42 points. So I'm going to go 42-27 right now.
You and I are just, we're almost identical. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
It's dead on the money right there.
It's up to Oklahoma to match it, but it's also up to Alabama to say, dictate what kind of game it's going to be. Because, if they want to go sling it around the field and throw it 50 yards deep every time, that's great. They'll succeed and they'll score touchdowns, but it'll bring Kyler Murray out some more. And so do you really want that? If I'm Alabama, I don't.
Does Alabama need Tua Tagovailoa to beat Oklahoma?
No, not at all. Not to say Tua's not a great player, but if Jalen's in there, A, he's clearly progressed as a passer, and B, that doesn't matter because, they could just basically run the offense they ran the previous 2 seasons, and which actually might be preferable, just to, again, keep Kyler on the sideline. So, they don't need to in this one. I don't think they'll keep him on the sideline and choose that unless Tua's injury is to a point where he can't play. But no, if it's just Jalen and for whatever reason Tua can't play at all, I think they'll be fine against Oklahoma. Clemson would be a different story, but that's a different problem for a different week.
So when we get into the conversation as we're breaking down Alabama and Clemson and Alabama, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma, Clemson, what do you think? mean, it's likely that we're going to see Alabama and Clemson, right? I mean, if our predictions go well, and I'm sure you kind of feel the same way about it. I mean, Clemson looks like a clear favorite on that side of the college football playoffs.
Yeah, I think they are. Think about how good they were down the stretch this year, and that was with Trevor Lawrence sort of taking the job on the fly. A full, 15 practices leading up to the Notre Dame game will do wonders for him, and do wonders for that staff to kind of further tweak and expand that playbook with him at quarterback. So, yeah, I mean, Notre Dame, I think people around, our part, I think, criticized Notre Dame. I think part of that's residual from the 2012, beatdown in Miami. But, this is a different team. They're solid. I don't know what their upside is. I don't think their upside is anywhere close to the three other playoff teams. But they're solid. They make you earn it. And so, I think they'll give Clemson a little bit of a fight. But, kind of the same way. I think Clemson realizes that, it has so many weapons, all over the place. You can't expect Notre Dame to contend and deal with that for 4 quarters. So, nor do I think Notre Dame has the ability to, consistently hold off Clemson's pass rush. And Ian Book will probably be forced into a few too many mistakes. So, I think we're looking at Clemson versus Alabama Part 4. And honestly, I think this might be one of, if not the best game of that series.
Barrett, I heard you earlier on ESPNU on Sirius XM, Channel 84, and one of the topics of conversation, you guys were all talking about the college football playoffs. This thing seems to be picking up a little bit of steam, right? I mean, it seems to be the right people are talking about it, not just throwing up darts on the side of a wall, but there's some pretty heavy conversation about the expansion of the college football playoffs. Do you think it'll make it? Do you think it'll grow anywhere with this conversation?
Not in the near future, because if you're going to expand it after the 6-year window, which is at the end of next season, you're too late unless those conversations are actually happening behind closed doors, and there's nothing to suggest they are. In fact, there's proof that they're not. I think it's politicking, and I don't think it's an accident that the person on the forefront is Barry Alvarez, whose team quite literally lost this playoff spot because of a conference championship game last year, and Alabama was the beneficiary of that, because any playoff expansion would likely eliminate conference championship games. So that would have helped Wisconsin. The Big Ten has been left out 2 straight years. Obviously, there's sour grapes there. So, I don't necessarily think there's a push. I think, people who are in somewhat of a position of power are taking advantage of the place and time we are in the contract to sort of try to kick the ball down the road a little bit more, kick the can down the road, maybe using UCF as sort of a facilitator for that. But no, I don't think it'll happen anytime soon. If it does happen, I think the earliest would be, I guess, the 2022 season, which would be after 9 years of the playoffs. But I still think that's incredibly early. To me, I think that the conference commissioners and a lot of other folks understand that balancing the worth and the value from a financial standpoint of the regular season and the postseason is something that is, I think, a pretty good balance right now. And if you add teams to the playoffs from a financial standpoint, the only way that you can protect your value as a conference is to require automatic bids for conference champions. But then that negates the importance of the postseason from a football perspective, because every Pitt of the world, or Wisconsin in 2012, or Northwestern this year, would have a chance to go to a playoff, and that's just not right.
Beard, I want to go back to a story that you published on CBSSports.com a couple of days ago that has been a big topic of conversation, but it's an Auburn coach, Gus Malzahn, has said contract has not changed since the end of the season. That's not what we've been hearing. Kind of give us an update on that, because that seems to be a big topic of conversation when you get outside of the playoffs, and this contract reduction and what is it, buyout money. That was a major topic of conversation. That doesn't seem to be the case.
Well, not yet, maybe. But I think the interesting part was that he didn't say if he was asked to do that. He didn't say if he was asked to, be hamstrung or run hires by, administrators, or asked to slow down the production or the construction of a football facility. So, I think Gus is going to say that regardless. Those contract details will only be made public when the appropriate time is to be made public. And I'm sure there's Freedom of Information Act requests flying all through the planes to find out, all the correspondence related to that. And since it's a public university, I think it has to be out at some point. And so, we'll see. I don't believe for one second that everybody in Auburn are in lockstep and it's a perfectly harmonious relationship, because that's just, after everything we've seen over the last 4 months, only an idiot would think that. So, he might be right. His contract may not have been changed right this very instant. Will it be changed later? I don't know. We'll see. But certainly, the idea that there's no truth to any of those rumors, I think that's not true.
Let me take you to Nashville, and I'm going to paint a scenario at the Music City Bowl there in Nashville next Friday. Not this Friday, but next Friday, the 28th of December. Let's say that Purdue finds some success, and they beat Auburn. You think they can revisit that discussion? Can Gus make it if Purdue beats Auburn? Because there's a lot hinging on that game.
In the immediate future, no, for a couple of reasons. One, why would Gus Malzahn agree to anything now after that battle had already been fought behind the scenes? I think that would cause him to stick his heels in the ground and fight back. As far as Auburn making a move, it could change things, especially if his offense looks dreadful with him as the play caller. So, that could change things, I guess, from Auburn's perspective, maybe to make a decision based on that. But I think that at that point, you would be dealing with pool of candidates, because really there aren't any that would be worth paying that buyout to, even if it's reduced. So the question would then become, okay, who out there from an NFL level would be willing to do it? Who wants it? Things like that. I wouldn't be floored if it happened. Do I think it's likely? No. But if they get blown out by Purdue and Gus's offense and his plays look like they're awful, I wouldn't eliminate that possibility altogether. But I think it really depends on interest and candidates, and I just don't know if their candidate pool is even remotely close to there right now.
Going to be a big topic of conversation, certainly one that we're kind of keeping our left eye on that as well. Barrett Sallee, ESPNU on SiriusXM Channel 84, and also CBSSports.com. Barrett, have you already got your assignment? Are you staying in Atlanta covering it from a distance? Are you going to be going to South Florida? Are you going to be going to Dallas? What's your obligations for the postseason?
I will be at the Peach Bowl, actually. It's strange with our staff. We have a lot of people in locations where the bowl games, the semifinals already are. So Ben's doing the Cotton. Dennis will be down there from his home in Kansas, and our headquarters is in South Florida. We've got the Orange Bowl covered. So I am here doing the Peach Bowl, and I don't mind that. Free Chick-fil-A for all. I'm 100% here for that. But I will be in your neck of the woods 2 days from now when Nick Saban has his signing day press conference, and maybe some other players around to talk with us about whatever goes on. So I'll a couple days for sure.
Well, in that early signing period, Nick Saban has mastered the early signing period. It took him a little bit of time, and people were doubting him, but I think he's made the adjustment, the audible, quite well.
They have 23 4- or 5-star players.
It's crazy.
23. Like, how is that possible?
Well, and Barrett, they're talking here in Tuscaloosa. People like Barton Simmons, which is somebody that works with your website and the affiliation, they're saying that this may be Nick Saban on paper his best class that he's ever signed in Tuscaloosa, or will sign.
I haven't seen the actual numbers on that, but I trust Barton. And just looking at the 40,000-foot view of recruiting like I do now, I can't argue that it's wrong. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous.